Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jump Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet willing to admit that Dunsparce is the only Pokemon for us. Joining me today, Noah.
Shuckle's better.
Saf.
Dunsparce is the only way you can fucking evolve your Mammothsvine.
What?
Yeah,
What?
you evolve Pilosvine into Mammothsvine by teaching it ancient power, and the only way it learns ancient power is by breeding it with a Dunsparce.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And now with an actual operational microphone, Moozamil.
I really was excited that without Brandon, I'd be first, and I'm last instead. And
Yes. This was what we in the business call a personal vendetta against you.
this isn't right.
Now, you just said, Moose, that we have no Brandon here. So some people might say, why should I listen to this podcast? And that's a fair question, but stick around. Brandon this week is at Anime Boston. He is cosplaying, and we're not making up stuff. Cosplaying as Jet from Cowboy Bebop, entirely so we can pose with Faye Valentine's. And frankly, we have to respect the hustle, right? Some things take precedence over the podcast. That is one of them.
Yep. He looks very good with that beard.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
But how the people that prioritized the viewers, right? The people that said, we want to be here for all roughly 10 of you.
Yeah. Fuck the anime.
The brave men of the Jump Up Supercast that are here, how are you doing today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Ecstatic for the public.
Ecstatic for the public. What does that mean?
I'm trying to put on a face, but I really miss Brandon. Okay.
We're scared. It's fine. We can power through. But I will say Brandon picked a heck of a week to skip out because the news is pretty dire this week. Not a lot, but there's still some stuff. So let's get to it, I suppose. First up, we're gonna be a little self-indulgent for Will. Give Will a little time in the spotlight because Dragon Quest XI got announced and got a release date for the West, which was a big concern. It is in September the 11th, I think, right?
September 4th.
4th. Dang, it's a week earlier than I thought.
That's
Happy
what I'm
birthday
here
to
for.
me.
September 11th? Really?
I mean, it's the number that popped up in my head.
Look, we can get over it by now. Super Mario Maker launched on that day.
Never forget.
Right?
That's the most important thing to have happened.
Super
on
Mario
that day.
Maker launched on that day. It's no longer a day we have to avoid for game releases. All right, so we're good.
We did it. Thank you, Mario Maker, for being brave.
I believe a friend of mine mistook my birthday for that day. Which makes it absolutely hilarious because I'm Asian.
When is your actual birthday, Saf?
In September.
Okay, great. I was looking for a number, but thanks for just...
Well then.
But back to Dragon Quest, though. The thing that is important is that we are getting it, but we are not getting some parts of it. We're not getting in the West the 3DS version, which for those of you who have kept track of this game, those of you who haven't, the 3DS version tells the same story, has the same script as the PS4 version, but is almost an entirely different game. So it's sort of the way that Dragon Quest XI was that it was supposed to capture all three eras of Dragon Age. Or Dragon Quest, not Dragon Age. Don't care about that.
All three games in the trilogy are represented here.
All three games, especially Inquisition.
Yeah.
No, but... So 11 on the PS4 was in the style of 8, and it was HD, big budget. You're walking around towns, and then the 3DS version had the engine, had a very similar engine to what the DS and the 3DS remakes had. And then also at any time, you could go to a town, talk to a person, and the entire game could be remade in 2D, in pixel art, like in the original games. And there was gameplay differences where, like in the 2D. It was random encounters, where in the 3D you would see people on the map that would come up and fight you, monsters, I should say. That is not happening in the West at all.
That's a little bit of a bummer. Like, I get it. I totally understand. Like, 3DS games that are not like Mario in 2018 are not going to sell. Mario or Pokemon, that's it. Those are the only franchises that could possibly sell on 3DS in 2018. But like,
and those are the only games that have announced games, right?
Yes,
every announced 3DS game right now from Nintendo has Mario in it.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the real shame about it is, like, I was really excited for the 3DS version because of that gimmick specifically. Like, I love the idea of like shifting between 2D sprites to like actual 3D models. Like, it's a really cool.
It's a really cool concept. Yeah.
I mean, luckily, because it does have the same script, like the exact same script, like to a T.
Yeah, like you could just play the 3DS version and just look at the PS4 script and it's identical, right?
I mean, so I think we can hope that there will be fan translations. You know, like hopefully you will be able to buy a Japanese copy and patch. If you're into custom firmware stuff, you'll be able to patch in. Someone will patch in that English language translation from the PS4 version. Hopefully, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. We, as a disclaimer, we here at the Jump Up Supercast don't condone piracy.
That's not piracy. I'm telling you, buy the Japanese copy.
It's not. You're buying the game. You're buying the game. But also, you may remember, if we flash back to 2015, that Dragon Quest XI was the first ever announced 10X game. Like,
oh yes, it was.
Yes,
it was. It was the first ever, and so
it was an unscripted announcement, wasn't it, as well? It's like,
oh no, I mean we'll get to this, but they announced with this Western release, they said the Switch version is in development. It will be a while. Basically, they're like, don't ask for a while on this. Which is funny because like you mentioned, Saf, the way that the Switch version got announced was that Yuji Horii is just infamous for this, where he will do interviews and will just announce things that Square did not want him to announce about Dragon Quest, and then they will scramble and be like, God, we have to make a press release, but we haven't even started working on the NX version yet, but it's announced. Oh my God!
Isn't this literally how the remakes for the West were announced? Right?
Yes,
it was
this is exactly how they were.
Yeah, we're bringing it over.
Bring it over. It's happening. It's like, I feel really bad for Square, to be honest. Like, that's a rough gig. But, so, I mean, I imagine what the actual plan was probably that you announce the PS4 version, then in like a Nintendo Direct or on some day after the PS4 version's done, you say, hey, also a port's coming to Switch 2, please be excited. And we all be like, it would be like a Wolfenstein or a Doom situation where we're like, wow, that's awesome, that's coming to Switch. But because we've heard about it for 3 years prior, we're just sort of like, what are you doing, Square?
I mean, like, literally what happened with Dragon Quest Builders, right? It was like they announced it last September, and it's like, hey, and it's out in February, and it's like, and that was a neat little thing. But in this one, because it was accidentally announced, we just know it way before we should have. Like, it clearly was not part of the plan to be announced yet, right? Like, I think it was always going to come next year sometime, but they just, it was not part of the plan. Now, also, I assume part of the plan for that Switch version is to bring these new improvements in, right? That the PS4
yes,
Western
I was just about
getting?
to get to that. Yes, thank you. So the Western version, Dragon Quest has a history of this. Dragon Quest VIII got a whole new orchestral soundtrack. It got voice acting for it when it came out in the West. The orchestral soundtrack is sadly not there for 11, but there is going to be full voice acting. They're redoing the UI. They're working on performance upgrades for the game, and they will also be adding in a hard mode that's only going to be in the Western version as of right now. Now, clearly what I imagine might happen is that like when they release the Switch version in Japan, they might have these improvements included in the Switch version to try to get people to double dip, because Dragon Quest is most popular in Japan. But overall, and also I want to get to this really fast. Some people on the internet are freaking out a little bit about like, what does this mean for Switch third-party development? They can't get Dragon Quest running on it. If it can't run Dragon Quest 11, can't run anything? And the answer is, don't worry. This is not the one I would worry about, right? It's already you're not running at 1080p on PS4. Square's pretty well known for like Final Fantasy 15 also had problems running on the PS4. They're just not very good at like optimizing with tech and stuff, right? Like if it was like Epic with Fortnite being like, we can't get Fortnite to run on Switch, you might have a thing to worry about because those are the people that made that engine, but I would not let this be the thing to make you think that third parties are dead forever on the Switch.
I mean, you can even look at Doom. Like, Doom runs rather well on the Switch.
Yeah, and there's clear concessions that have to be made. We can admit that's fine to say, but just like as the core experience of playing that game, it works, right? And Doom relies more on performance than a game like Dragon Quest does, for sure.
Like forgetting the Switch version for a second, though, right? This is exciting. Like I hope this is the one where Dragon Quest can take off in the West. Like this is gonna be it. Because Because I mean, we've seen Persona 5 do well,
like be successful, right?
Yeah,
I thought 9 was that success.
I mean, 9 was it was, but like I mean, for whatever reason, Square Enix has never been able to capitalize since then. You know, I mean, because they just did a bunch of remakes.
Like 10 was the MMO,
yeah,
and then the 11's just come back to that.
Yeah, it's a thing where like they just really they did not capitalize in any way on any potential momentum they had, right? And so it's a thing where, and plus, I mean, I think that in the West, there's just more of a bias towards console experiences, right? Like it's the Monster Hunter World situation, right? Where it's like, Monster Hunter World is selling incredibly well. It's the best selling of the Monster Hunter series. But like, there's this feeling of like, oh, it's growing up. You know, like finally Monster Hunter gets the treatment it deserves because it's not on the rinky-dink little system. I think that there's sort of that same thing with Dragon Quest, right? Where it's like, it's not on the rinky-dink DS, which is the last one that we saw, right? Like we have the remakes and stuff on 3DS, but like as a new title, this will be a big jump for the series.
So I'm really hoping this is the one to do, and also it's on Steam, right? So that's crazy.
Yes, it is coming to PC, which is actually that's super important and very of note, because games like Nier and like Valkyria Chronicles are games that in many ways were sort of saved by their PC releases.
Yeah,
or weren't saved with Nier's case, but were certainly helped in a big way.
I mean, like almost half of the sales for Automata came from PC, right? Like
yeah, and that port was famously not very good.
Yeah,
so.
a shitty port did that well, you know. And it's like there's a clear market for these Japanese games on Steam, and so I'm so happy Square Enix sees that and is doing that with Dragon Quest. Something I didn't ever in my mind think that Dragon Quest could come to PC, you know. So this is
especially when with Final Fantasy taking a full year and a half to get to PC with 15.
For this to be day and date, like that's, I mean, obviously it's late from the Japanese version, but like, you know, still it's very impressive. Also, it's like what is it called with Dragon Quest? I kind of see now why it's took such a long time to localize. You know, because I was getting like come on, like this game should have been like pretty close to a worldwide release. You know, like 14 months after launch is a bit much nowadays, you know. So I am glad that they're doing like, you know, they are adding the voice acting. Like there's a reason for it, right? It feels justified.
Yeah,
now.
It's not just like here's the version we were just really lazy with the translation, right? Like it's like no, like you have to cast characters and do all these scenes. So that's exciting. Hopefully, Dragon Quest. Look forward to it. Not on September 11th, on September 4th. But boys, do you hear that little whistle in the air? That little voice faintly in the distance.
Oh shit!
E3.
There's a Proto Man.
E3.
Oh, I thought it was static. I thought it was the static in my microphone. Oh.
E3.
Yeah.
E3. It's E3. E3's coming up.
Kill it! Quick! It's E3.
All right, it's E3. That was enough of that. It's E3. E3 is coming up. It's a thing. We're almost in April. We are in April when you're listening to this. So. I mean,
I was jokingly last week counting down to Sushi Striker, because it's like right before E3. But now I can't forget how far we are. So we're 10 weeks away. Just
10 weeks away from E3.
10 weeks away. It won't leave my head now. I will forever know how close we are to E3 between now and then.
Yes. The minute that it turns to April, my brain turns to E3 mode, which is bad. It's 2 months.
It's too early, probably, but you know, I feel it.
But you know what? The companies are announcing things, so maybe it's not. I don't know. We have all.
Are they?
Yes, Bethesda, EA, Microsoft all announced this week their E3 things that they are doing at E3. A lot of it's the same stuff that they've done before, but Bethesda. People asked last year, will they do another conference? Because if you recall, Bethesda's E3 conference last year was very strange in that I forget his name. He's the head of Bethesda, not Todd Howard.
Not Todd Howard.
Not Todd Howard.
I know what you're talking about, though. I forget his name, though. Yeah.
The guy, he's presented all E3 the last 2 years E3. He comes out on stage, goes, "Hey everyone, welcome to Bethesda E3. Look forward to it." And then walks backstage, and the rest of the show was just a video. They
basically played a Nintendo Direct, but in front of a live audience, right? It was so weird. It was a live conference, but they would just play the video. No one ever came in between. Like, it was...
No, there was never a demo on stage. It was just And it was all themed around Bethesda Land, which was like, okay, all right. Oh, well,
which apparently
a little cheeky, but it's fine.
People who were there enjoyed it a lot, but like, I mean, but sitting at home, it was like
apparently they made an actual Bethesda Land.
Yeah. But for us at home, it was just like, I don't know. This. Why didn't you just upload this video, live stream this video? You know, why did you show us the stage in the first place? You know, it was a little weird, but they are doing it again. But so people said like, well, they're just gonna do the video next year. And the answer is no. They're gonna be on stage. They're gonna be doing like they've done before. Maybe they'll actually use the press conference format this time.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Games to look at for that. The sort of Bethesda's pretty good at like announcing pretty close to release. So games like Doom 2, it's been a little bit since Doom, the first one came out, so that could be a thing to look for. Todd Howard is working on a game that has Star in the title. I forget what the last part
Starfield.
Starfield, yes. So that might be a thing to look for. But you know, they're kicking off E3 like they have in the past. EA.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to talk about Bethesda real quick. Bethesda's always potentially exciting, right? Because like this time last year, we didn't know Wolfenstein 2 existed. We didn't know The Evil Within 2 existed. You know, and then they were out that same year. That's crazy. So like,
yeah,
I don't know.
That turnaround is of note and fun, right? Like that's
like they did that with a game like Fallout 4 too, right? That's one of their biggest properties, right? So clearly Bethesda does not care to announce things way ahead of time. So I don't know. They're always a cool wild card. Who knows what we'll see there? But that's exciting.
And then EA, I mean, as excited as you can be for an EA conference after the last couple of years.
Yay!
The last couple
they're doing they're doing a stage show again, and they are
they're doing their own thing.
They're doing EA Play, which is a thing that is not near the conference center. People have to drive to go to it if they are attending E3, but you can go there and play their games, which is a thing.
Whatever. If you're at this point, there's not even a point in being like cautiously optimistic with EA. It's just like, no, you know what you're gonna get. It's gonna be bad.
Like if it works out better than we think it will right now, great, but don't expect it. You know, like
don't expect it. You should have your
a playbook.
Expectations. Think of what your expectations now, and then lower it by another 20. Right, because that's EA every year for the last 5 years. So.
And like, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to just like needlessly attack, but like EA's done nothing to make us engender goodwill. Besides, I mean, A Way Out just came out, so I guess that's a thing that's like a good headline for them. But besides that, there's not a lot. And so we'll see how that goes. And then Microsoft is actually doing some interesting things. They're still doing their conference like they normally do. They moved it up a little bit. Bethesda moved their conference up a little bit as well. In terms of when they show, but they are going to do their conference, but they're also using the Microsoft Theater, which is which they own obviously, and it's where they haven't used it. In fact, it used to be the Nokia Theater, but like Nintendo's gotten more use out of the Microsoft Theater than Microsoft has gotten out of the Microsoft Theater in recent years, which is funny because that's where they did the Smash tournament and the Nintendo World Championships out of.
Yeah, but that's where they used to their conferences, right? Their E3 conferences.
But they are going to be doing a sort of like EA Play, which is where people can. It's a more open to the public thing. People can come in, and they'll be doing tons of. I said a lot of demos, a lot of playable things for people to enjoy throughout all of the show, all 3 days. In addition to having stuff on the show floor. Is open to the public, from my understanding.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yes, which is cool. So, and then also in addition, they have the Mixer booth and they have the E3 floor space where they will also have demos. So Microsoft is very happy to be like, we're doing the biggest E3 ever, and it's like technically they are because
they mean it literally.
They are,
like literally, it's the biggest
in the most literal sense of the word.
But this is cool, right? Like a opening up. I always appreciate when these companies do stuff like that for the public, right? It's like, hey, but also, unlike EA, this isn't a convenient location. You know, it's
it's right across the street from the floor itself, from the E3 show floor, which is good.
Like it's literally you can walk there in 11 minutes. I just looked on Google Maps. It's right there. You know,
so you can grab a sandwich and then just make your way.
Yeah, so it's not an issue for so that way, like for the press too, or even people, because now that E3 is open to the public, like you can go to E3, but also it's not that much of a hassle to go to Microsoft, you know. So That's pretty neat.
So that's all. I mean, that was all stuff. I mean, and like, you know, it won't affect the games that get shown off. It won't affect any of those things. Oh, I guess I've also of note, Fortnite is doing a big old tournament. They're doing
celebrities.
50 pros, 50 celebrities going to be facing off. So
I mean, the celebrities will lose very quickly.
You look forward to Zac Efron and Snoop Dogg showing up high as balls like they did for the EA.
That'll be funny to see. They'll die like within the first 3 minutes.
I mean, I hope it'd be hilarious if a celebrity wins, though. I would.
It would be so good. Drake, do it, my dude.
Drake's gonna win.
What's Lupe Fiasco doing recently?
He might. I mean, 50 celebrities is a lot of celebrities. You know, like that's actually.
I mean, at some point you have to wonder: is it all celebrities, or is there some YouTube people mixed in there? You know, it's like.
Oh no! I mean, there will be liberal use of the word celebrity. Yeah. You know. There will be some guy who has like 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, which like we're not throwing shade at. We're not close to that, but like that's not a celebrity, you know?
Yeah, but
no, they're content creators for now.
The content creators. But so
that'll be really entertaining to see though. Those celebrities trying to figure out how to play the game.
Yeah.
Though to be fair, Fortnite's so mainstream that I think most of the people invited will know how to play already. They'll be bad.
You could probably find,
but that you know.
It would be embarrassingly bad.
And you could get some like NFL players, like and like NBA players. Like you can get there's plenty of people that play Fortnite that you could probably find. So
I mean, it can't get worse than that guy that went to the Nintendo Championships and played that arms match.
Yeah, or
What was his
Bailey
name?
from
Bailey?
WWE.
Oh my God, Nintendo! Why did you? Surely
WWE is full of nerds who play a lot of video games. They picked the one wrestler who does it because she's the kid branded one is the thing. She's the one that kids love in Nintendo, of course. But like, man, it's like because we literally have Sasha Banks who's like working feuds with her constantly, and is like she's multiple times said that she's incredibly annoyed that Bailey got the invite and she didn't to the World Championships, which is very funny. But so yeah, I mean, part of this was just that I was excited to see the word E3 in a headline. Like, hey, we're entering that season. Look forward to a million fake 4chan leaks. It's going to be great.
I mean, this is, but it's also like the worst time, right? Because it's like, because most of the companies are holding off their announcements for E3 at the same time. So it's like,
oh yeah, there's a reason like podcasts like us do tons of like speculation and predictions in this like 2-month span. It's because there's nothing actually to talk about.
This is the drought right here. This is the.
But it's all right. I mean, I don't want to say that out loud to the viewership. Too late.
Joke's on them. Ooh. We are content creators. So
there's stuff. For example, I was looking at twitch.tv over the last week. I sometimes, just as a person, I will look at the browse tab of Twitch and just look at viewers for games. And one, it's just like every time, like, Fortnite, what are you doing? Stop it. You're too big. But also, a game that I saw that was higher up, 2 games I saw that were higher up in the last 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, wow. Were Sea of Thieves and Far Cry 5. I
didn't realize Sea of Thieves was still doing well on Twitch. That's exciting.
It's still, I mean, it's dropped off a fair amount, but there was a moment where it was in the top. There was like a 4 to 5 day span where it was in the top 3 pretty consistently. Now it's dropped off a little bit, but that was a precursor to the announcement from Microsoft itself that Sea of Thieves is the biggest new IP for Xbox this generation. It has over 2 million players in the first 2 weeks, which they had 1 million in the first week and then 2 million in the second week, which means that they're growing, they're not dropping off, which is interesting. And actually also a thing that's of note is that it was on the Microsoft Store. It was number 2 on the charts, and that does not include Game Passes. That's only people that paid $60.
Yeah, it was only losing to PUBG, right? Which PUBG constantly selling on Xbox.
Yeah, which PUBG's, yeah. And so it's a thing where there was a bunch of questions about Sea of Thieves walking into it. One of which was, will Game Pass just eat all of the costs? Will it be successful? Yada yada. Will there be a drop off? And the answer is we don't know about the drop off. But to the first 2 questions, will it be successful and will Game Pass eat into it? The answer appears to be no. It's actually being very successful. But you wouldn't know that if you were on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Because the internet's very negative on Sea of Thieves. And not just the internet, but gaming press is, right? It has one of the lowest average Metacritics of any major first-party release this generation. I think the only other one that really competes with it is like the Order 1886 for the PS4. And that's a different type of game. But Sea of Thieves is still finding a large amount of success. And another game that just came out this week is Far Cry 5, where the same thing is happening. Where we look on, if you look on Steam specifically, it is 2 times as the peak player count was within the first 2 weeks, in the first week, was 2 times as big as the highest player count for Assassin's Creed Origins, which was already a ridiculously high selling game and did very well on PC, just much more better on PC than prior entries in the Assassin's Creed franchise did. And also, we know that Unity is a thing on PC, and that for like a game like For Honor, 50% of sales on PC come from Unity, so not on Steam.
So Uplay.
So, from Uplay. I'm sorry. Yes, from Uplay, not from Unity. That's my bad. But all that being said, Far Cry 5 is looking to do really well. If you were on the internet, you would not know that, right? The gaming press doesn't talk about it. They generally has not had great things to say about it. The general conversation about it in the circles that I sort of see it is almost non-existent, or if it is, it's generally negative. And so I just want to ask you, like, why are gamers, I'm putting quotation marks about gamers, why is hardcore gamer culture so bad at actually knowing what is and will not be successful and what is popular and not?
I don't think it has to do with success, but rather I think it's like level of saturation. Like, because these are like highly marketed games. Like, you see their ads everywhere, and like you see them on the beginning of YouTube.
Sure, but like no one we know is talking about Far Cry 5. Like, let me give you an example from last year, another Ubisoft game, right? Ghost Recon Wildlands. Do you know a single person who owns that game? No, you don't, right? Like, I mean, I don't personally, but like, but that game was the best-selling game up until for the year, up until that like September-ish, when like NBA 2K and all that stuff, and like Destiny 2, when that stuff started coming out, that's when it finally lost its throne. But like, that wasn't the best-selling top 10 games of the year last year, you know?
That came out the same month as Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild was a game of the generation.
Right?
Yeah. Like Breath of the Wild, it's a game of the generation to your game, and it beat Breath of the Wild in sales. Like, what is it? Do we just have a fundamental separation in how we enjoy games versus how the general public enjoys games?
For sure, yeah, definitely. Because like, you can say the same thing about like stuff like FIFA and Madden. Like, they're always top sellers. They're always something that's always broken into mainstream, and people buy into that shit. And I think it's like, we as gamers don't have any interest in it. And I think it's something to do with the fact that we've already had some level of experience of those games, and it's just, again, like, it's just overly
I just find it
saturated.
interesting in particular with
Like,
these Ubisoft games, right? Because like Ubisoft, like, theoretically they are targeting us, right? Like at E3, like they're talking to, like, hey gamers, like, you know, like, I don't know. It's weird that these games, you wouldn't think they'd have such big mainstream success, but I mean, here they are, right? Like Far Cry 5 is doing incredible. Like, we've seen the numbers already. It's off to an amazing start, you know? And they're games that, like, let's be honest, are not even being reviewed that well, you know?
No, Far Cry 5 is also sitting at like a not great Metacritic.
So it's like, I
What was it, like 87, 80?
No, much lower, I'm pretty sure.
Much lower?
I mean, I know, like, Ghost Recon was really low. I don't know about this one in particular. Let's fact check real quick. But someone say something else.
I'm looking. No, it's 84 on Metacritic.
Oh, okay, well, it's not too bad actually for Far Cry 5 in particular.
User review 7.1, right? Which is, but like, people use, I think that like we use games as a way to like experience things, right? Like it's just like, you know, like even the Zeldas of the world and the Last of Us of the world have the same trait of like putting you in an environment, putting you in a world, wanting to tell you either a story or have you see what the game has in store for you, right? Where like for a large percent of people they use games as a way to catch up with friends, right? They use games as a way to relax when they get home from work. And so a game like Ghost Recons or a Far Cry, where you can just like hop in with your friends, do 2 missions, be like, hey man, had a weird day at work, this happened, yada yada, how you doing, yada, you know, just make conversation. Like, for a large percent of the audience, that's all they need out of a video game, right? And they can do that for 2 months, where they just play for an hour twice a week, you know? And versus us, where like, you know, when I play a game that I really like, or I think any of us, like we put in dozens of hours every single week, or at least, you know, like at least whenever a big game that we like comes out. And so I think that just because of that, there is sort of this feeling of like not understanding what the general population is doing because you are putting so much time in the actual act of playing games, right? And part of it is just like not looking at, unless you're talking to people daily about games that are not people that are not gaming enthusiasts, you won't know what people who just casually play video games, right? Like you have people, they have whole companies that their whole job is to do that, is to figure out what the, you know, Joe Schmo buys a game for, but not what, you know, like me or you who's like, let me tell you about the storytelling techniques of Nier Automata. Like that's as valuable to, I mean, the Joe Schmo sale is as valuable to them as the hardcore audience that's on, you know, Reddit or on Reset Era.
I just say it's just all about marketing, and it's all about like the way they just sell these products and put it in your face. Because like, do you remember like the entire like controversy over like covers, or like the cover art for like BioShock, or like what's that one, The Last of Us, I think it was.
Yeah, you're talking about BioShock Infinite, where like they don't want to have the girl on the cover.
Yeah, so that it's more attractive to people. Like
to the boys. Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel as though it's just.
I mean, I don't know. Every AAA game known to man is marketed that way, but they're not all finding the success of like, you know, Far Cry 5. You know, like I think it is and like Sea of Thieves. Even Sea of Thieves, was that like, was there a big like TV push for that game? I didn't see it. If so, you know.
Well, I mean, it's funny in that
I mean, that's more YouTuber territory, isn't it? Like that's more stream territory. Just the way like Minecraft became popular.
I mean, I'm gonna. So that sort of leads into my thing where like it's weird that like one of the best metrics that we have right now for a successful game is
Twitch.
Like it's just like how many viewers they have. Like there is just I mean, maybe this has been disproven on a game that I don't know about, but generally there's a pretty direct line of correlation between having regular viewership on Twitch and having regular sales.
I mean, right, that's literally what I mean, PUBG and Fortnite, right? Like those are games that literally built their base from Twitch, right? Like that's how they became that popular, and I don't know, it's really interesting.
And there's two games that didn't get reviews when they launched, right?
Yeah,
like we either like and we were talking about last week about brick and mortar, but like the two of the biggest games the last year are Fortnite and our PUBG, and like both of and then before that there's Minecraft. Those are all digital only games. Like they only got physical releases way after they became huge, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just this weird thing of discoverability where like I don't think that like box releases are going away. I don't think that the other games that we are more prone to enjoy are going away, right? Like I was talking to Moose yesterday about like how it's insane that Nier Automata sold 2.5 million units. Like that's just an insane number for that video game.
Yeah, oh yeah,
but
for sure.
But like the fact that like I know that off the top of my head, but that like I don't remember where Destiny 2 was in the top 10 is just sort of a blind spot that we all have that I don't know how you really fix, because I mean I guess it's just by playing those games that you aren't inclined to like, but then you're like, well, spend money on things you probably won't enjoy. I mean, I guess the answer is like, I
mean, we like, I mean, the real answer is like, people are paying attention to what they like, right? That's fine, right? It's like
yeah, that's fine, but just understand that like we all have a skewed perspective.
It is just interesting though, right? That people who are like us, who are hardcore into sales, how we're constantly just blindsided by these by like these Ubisoft games or these like online multiplayer games. I don't know. It's just funny to see, right? Like we're just constantly just like, what? This sold?
Yeah, and so this is not really a conversation. I mean, it's a conversation about sales, but I want to put it more in the context of sales as they teach us about the culture that we are in, right? Like that's sort of the thing. But yeah, so that was a weird, interesting topic. Man, I've just thought a lot about Sea of Thieves recently. Not the game. The game is fine. I like playing Sea of Thieves, but it's flawed. But like, man, just all the stuff surrounding it, just like Game Pass and all these other things. What a way to make a weird game that doesn't matter suddenly feel very weird and strange in the whole landscape. I
certainly did not see it being a big thing. You know, like
yeah. Who knows? It's crazy.
We'll see if it keeps it up, but it's a very strong start for them. That's
and honestly, like they got what they needed out of that game, which is Game Pass and which is everything else. But but that's sort of it for the news and for the general discussion this week of the going-ons in the video game space. But that means we do get to move on to a real treat. Muzamil won the game last week.
I did.
He knew how long it took to beat video games. So now Muzamil has a challenge for us.
That's what they call me, an expert on beating games. Me.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, but yes, I have a game this week. It's the best game we've ever played, actually, believe it or not. No, that's a lie.
My eyebrows are raised. My eyebrows are raised to the sky.
Oh boy.
We're in the E3 mood, even though it's way too early for it. But you know what? That's okay. I'm all in on E3 right now. I'm really feeling it. So our game's about E3 this week, and specifically about how many games from each press conference last year are out by now. By the next E3. So what?
Mm-hmm.
So the way this is gonna work, I'm gonna split it into two groups: the third parties and the first parties. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And I'm gonna give you 3 percentages, and you're gonna tell me which percentage matches which company. Okay?
Oh.
Simple enough?
Yes.
So, games that are announced last E3, which ones are out by this E3?
I don't think it was announced. It was in their conference, right? So like Mario Odyssey was announced. But it counts because it came out before this E3.
If they showed it in the conference, like not counting sizzle reels though, but if they showed it in the conference and it's out, either it's out or it has an actual release date between now and June 8th, then it counts as being out. Okay, so we got that clear.
So release dates count. Got it.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the third parties: Ubisoft, EA, and Bethesda. Okay, these are your 3 options.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 54.5%, 85.7%, and 88.9%. So you can tell me who is where. And we'll go with Will's first.
Okay, so I'm pretty confident the 54% is Ubisoft.
Okay.
Because they had Beyond Good and Evil, they had a bunch of games. The Starlink game, a bunch of games that automatically put it below the 85 percentile. Now the other 2 are hard though.
This one's close. 85 versus 88.
Now I'm gonna give credit to EA in that I think the only game they showed off that isn't out right now is Anthem. But Bethesda also does that really well too. I'm gonna say, because EA showed off more games, EA is the higher percentage.
Okay. So EA 88, Bethesda 85, Ubisoft. Okay. Safi, tell me what you think between those 3. Who is the 54.5%? The lowest one.
The lowest one? I'll go for
Ubisoft, okay.
85, I'll go for EA. And 88, I'll go for Bethesda.
Alrighty. And Noah.
Alright, Ubisoft the lowest, Bethesda the highest, EA 85.
Okay, so Saf and Noah got it exactly right. Will, you were off the mark on EA and Bethesda. So funnily enough, EA, the secret is EA didn't have much to show, I guess. But yeah, they were pretty high.
Yeah.
They had a lot. I think Ubisoft was probably the most well-regarded last year, right? But just barely over half of what they showed off is actually out by now. Now we'll see if that continues, but I think that's kind of Ubisoft's MO, right? Like Ubisoft likes to show off what's far.
They
into
announce
the future.
far off, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
They do that one game every year that's clearly 3 years away.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and then so this next one is the first parties. All right, so Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. Now this one, the percentages are kind of similar. 56.5% is the low. We have 80%, and we have 81.5%, just barely higher. Now, I will note each of these counts one game that was a DLC for an already released first party game. That's counted in the. But each of them has one of them. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay.
Okay.
So it's 56.5, 80, and 81.5. So we will start with Saf this time. What do you think is the low? 56.5.
Who is this?
The first parties.
Okay.
So Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo.
Who had the lowest percentage of
I want to
released
say
games that they showed off at their E3?
I wouldn't say. Shit. Maybe. I barely remember Sony's because I was asleep during that EA. So I barely paid attention to them.
Hours.
Yeah. So. Fuck. I want to say Nintendo was the lowest.
Nintendo's got the low. All right, so then 80% and 81.5. This one's very close. So Sony and Microsoft, which gets the high?
I want to say Sony. I'm guessing Sony, and I'm going to put EA. Sony's the highest, and EA is just EA. Sorry, Microsoft's just
Microsoft.
Below. Yeah.
This is saying SAF confirms Microsoft. EA is buying Microsoft.
Wow.
Who would have saw that one coming? All right.
EA bought Microsoft, twisted the tables.
All right. Noah, give me your answers.
The lowest one, Sony.
Okay.
I will put Microsoft at the 80% and Nintendo at 81%.
Okay. And William. Who has the low? The extreme low.
Sony has the extreme low. Microsoft. Well, I need to differ from Noah to potentially tie.
You don't have to. Whatever you think is right.
Well, we have to gamify it. So I'm but I think so too. That the Yoshi and Metroid aren't out. I'm gonna say that 80 is Nintendo, 81 is Microsoft.
80 is Nintendo, 81. Okay, so Will and Saf got one right. Noah got.
Wait, not me. I put. Did I not put Nintendo? Oh.
Let me tell you.
You got one of them right.
Hold on, you got one of them.
All right, sorry.
Let me tell you the actual answers. So Microsoft was actually at the extreme low, 56.5%. Granted, if you look at that list, it's because Microsoft, more than any of the other two, had a big focus on smaller indie games. And, indie games...
Oh, and those take forever to come out.
Yep. A lot of times, those indie games you show off, they're a ways off,
Mm-hmm. They're a way out.
And then, this one, obviously, just 1.5% difference, right? But it was Sony with 81 and Nintendo with 80. Sony just barely...
You know what it was? Was it the VR?
Yes. And the reason why Sony has the biggest percentage is because there was a big chunk in the middle of VR games that are already out. And that is why they won. Because if you actually just look if you look at just the big retail games, Nintendo or Microsoft would have won that, because with Sony a lot of them are still not out. But because
the Spider-Mans and the Days Gones and the
but because it was about, everything they showed. That's how that
I can't believe I guessed my way through that one.
So Saf is the winner at 4 points. Saf has 4, Noah has 3, and Will has 2.
Oh my god, I can't believe I guessed myself into that one.
Also, I just wanted to note out, they all showed new games except for they all had one DLC. So it was like Nintendo showed off Breath of the Wild, the Champion's Ballad. Sony showed off Horizon Zero Dawn, the Frozen Wilds. And then Microsoft had Minecraft, Better Together. So I just thought it was funny that they all had
together.
I just thought it was funny they all had one big DLC.
And they were all the big games for that year.
Is someone keeping scores at how many people have won how many games?
No. I should do that. I'll do that.
Yeah. I mean, clearly Will was winning.
We'll see.
But yeah, Saf gets to make the game next week.
It's an honor and a privilege, Saphir.
Yeah,
but good game, Muzamil. I was worried that since we were gonna have the kind of sales related talk earlier, you were also gonna have a sales related game. So that was a weight off my shoulders that you didn't do that.
No, I mixed it up this time.
What a mad lad. This is your one other passion, E3 conference.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but Will, my passion of beating games. I won last week in that game.
Yeah, you did it. It worked. And beating games. How many games do you think you all have beaten this year so far?
I have the answer. It's 1. No, wait, no. I beat 3, but 2 of them I was at the final boss last year, and then just barely beat it. Barely beat it this year.
Well,
Yeah.
So what are those?
It was Sonic Mania and Splatoon 2. I was just kind of holding off on them for the longest time. So I just
Look at the stat padding. Look at the stat padding.
And then I did play this game from start to finish this year. Celeste. That is the only actual game.
That's actually a very good one. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Noah, Saf, have you beat any video games?
No, I started off Yakuza, but then I just derailed myself with fucking Earthbound. And
same, exactly the same.
This is going to be delayed further with the next game, I'm sure.
Oh, it'll happen. Don't worry about it. So that's a good time to mention the plug. Look out for the Game Club on Thursday. Earthbound. It's a good video game. But speaking of good video games, time to move to the final portion of our show, the one that gets the most reactions out of everyone in and outside of the show, the list.
The list.
And this week, we get the chance for Noah to show us what he wants to add to this list. Last week, of course, we added the beloved Left 4 Dead 2. Moose is very happy to see it at number 5. So let's keep it going. Let's keep the streak going.
Real quick note, you can see what the current ranking is before this week's game is added in the notes. There's a Pastebin link. You can see exactly where it's ranked. So you'll have context for
and in
when
the description on YouTube.
Yeah.
All right, so Noah.
So this week I want to add Until Dawn.
Until Dawn.
Oh,
that's a new game.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. Well, it's not. Well, I mean, it's a couple of years old. Not really
2015,
that.
but I mean, look at our list though.
Current generation.
Towards the past.
I mean, we got Dragon Ball fighters in there, so I don't think it's gonna get newer than that.
Thank you, Game Club. So, Until Dawn, tell us about what that game is, Noah.
It is a horror, I guess that would be the defining genre of it. It's a horror game where you play as a bunch of... They're not real teenagers, are they? I guess they're
like college age, I guess.
They're college.
Yeah. And it's like a typical scenario of any horror movie. They all taking a trip or like camping in this area they've never really been to. And well, actually they've been there a couple of times, but not to spoil too heavily, but there was an incident there that happened a long time ago and they're revisiting it to try to get over what happened. Like it was a death of somebody close to them, and then they go back to try to like recover from it to have a good time because they usually go there for Pydra and stuff. Anyway, so yeah, they go back there and a whole another scenario happens where they're being chased by, I guess, some monsters or killers. I won't say which
all
exactly
kinds
it
of
is.
Stuff. It's a horror. It's horror.
Yeah.
You can assume that something will happen to these kids that go to a cabin in the woods.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And it's heavily based on quick time events, but it also has a bunch of interesting mechanics like the butterfly effect where something will happen, you'll get chased or something, you have to make quick decisions on either to go left or right or to pick up a certain item to defend yourself or little things like that. And that will based on what you decide to do, will affect what will happen later on in the game. Yeah. So, like, you might decide to help somebody that's in danger, or you might decide to leave them behind, and later on you see that they actually survived, and they'll be like, why the fuck did you leave me to die, or something like that. And they will be, like, negative towards you, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've seen some things, or some events, like, online, that I did not experience in the game. It's like, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
Like
a thing that I think is really cool that I want to mention is that, like, because you do have this cast of, like, 7 kids, give or take, I don't know the exact number, but like it's a relatively big group. There is, because of that, they're willing to, like, if you screw things up, that character can die, and so like that whole thing of like who will be there at the end, who won't be, is neat. And also you play as the different characters, right? So it's not just like there's the Walking Dead type game where like blank will remember that, but like because you're playing as the different characters in this game, you're like making things from their perspective. And you get to see more of each of the characters, and it's not like it's the greatest story ever told. It is a slasher movie by its nature, but it's fun in that way. I like it,
yeah, like some of the decisions aren't like the most you think that would be the most logical ones aren't necessarily the good ones. So you have to like think outside of the box most of the time.
It's also a thing that I like a lot about it is that it's like a weirdly fun multiplayer experience. And that sounds weird because it's like a story game. But like there's the famous demo at like one of the first PSXs where like they're just playing the game and the crowd's just yelling at them what to do, right? They're just like, go left. Go left.
Yeah, go left.
And the guy's like, I should go left? Oh, okay. And like goes.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty much what me and Brandon were playing it.
Yeah, that's same with me and another friend. Like that was my first experience playing it with a friend and just talking about what's the best thing to do.
One of my favorite things that they did is at game trailers, when game trailers were still around, is that they realized that there's like 7 characters in the game and there's 7 people that are like on camera. So everyone picked a character. And so anytime they swapped the perspective of the character, you pass the controller off to them. And so like if you died, you just didn't play anymore. But like also because like they would like spite each other while spiting the characters in the game, right? And it was like it's fun to see that type of play arise because of the structure of the game.
That's amazing.
And I think like because people say, well, any game could do that, but like I think that we saw the Detroit Become Human demo at PSX this last year, where they tried very much. You could tell they wanted to recreate that PSX demo. Where they're like, well, be on stage, yell at us what to do, and it didn't work nearly as well. like, and that's not even an insult to Detroit, like because that game's not out yet, we don't know how it'll be. But like, it's just that it's the same on how Until Dawn had the perfect format for that type of experience.
Yeah.
You know,
it feels. I don't know if this is completely accurate, but it like from what I've always seen from Until Dawn, it always felt like a Telltale game done like how I would envision, like the way they market. You know how they always say like choices matter, and but at the end of the day, in a Telltale game, it doesn't, right? Let's be honest. Like you're coming to the same conclusion. Whereas it's extremely meaningful here, right? Like every little thing you do is extremely like important to the to the end game.
Yeah, like the Telltale games will still, like, there might be a few changes here and there, like how the characters will react to you, but the main path of the story will still follow the same line. Yeah. Whereas with Until Dawn, you can actually kill off all the characters if you do make the wrong decisions.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that I think it sort of hits a good middle spot because like on Telltale, there's sort of two ends a lot of times where there's the Walking Dead where it's a very serious story, right? Like they want you to be emotional, they want you to be attached to these characters, and then there's like the Guardians of the Galaxies of and like that type of game where it's more goofy. I think that Until Dawn sort of exists in the middle where like by its kind of nature of what it is, it's sort of goofy. So, but the characters take it seriously enough that like you get invested without ever feeling like, but they don't have to try to tell some like overly complex story. Cause like the more complex you get in the story, the less variety you can have in like what happens to the characters, because you're trying to build on themes. And this one I think hits that perfect middle spot of like, you care about what's happening, but the story is broad enough that they can fill it in with multiple different things.
Yeah.
So we like it. But where do you think it should go on the list?
I was gonna put it at number 10.
Number 10. So that would be below Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, but above Super Mario 3D Land.
And Brandon also left me a message saying he wants to put it at number 10 as well. The reason being, like, the little side note he left was he likes the graphics, the branching paths, the fun story, good voice acting, even if it's a bit cheesy, good jump scares, and he didn't like the limited gameplay and the most quick time events. So that's what he liked to say.
I didn't like the motion controls of this game. I felt as though that was a little too sensitive.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Because there were times where I got messed up in that game because I was like, "Wow, I didn't mean to motion. I didn't mean to do that." It's a neat idea, but
you're welcome to ignore my opinion because I haven't played much of either of these games. But I feel like it would be better suited to be below Stardew Valley. only because like Stardew Valley, from what you people have told me and from the little I've played, is a perfect game in that genre, right?
Yeah.
Is Until Dawn the best game that has in this style of game? You know, like is it like?
Well, the thing is that it doesn't have a lot of stiff competition, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has much higher competition.
Where it's like Stardew Valley, it being the best in that is a very high. That's very high praise for that game.
It's a high praise, yeah.
It's a big deal, and I don't know. I don't know if Until Dawn, even if it does do that, if it even does do that, is that big of a deal? You know, or is it that fun?
It's good for a horror game. It's really good.
Can I clarify with you guys? When you're saying that sort of genre style game, are you including visual novels into this?
Yeah, I don't know how we're grouping Until Dawn. Are we just thinking of it as a horror game? Or are we...
I think it has a bit more gameplay to actually consider it a visual novel.
Yeah, I would consider like David Cage's games and Telltale to be the closest in terms of like the whole group that we would compare it to.
I mean, I will give it. It's one of the few games you could actually point to where it's like they did a good job making use of it being a video game, because you can't do choices in any other medium, right? Like that's not a thing.
Yes.
And so for Until Dawn to do that and do it well, I guess, is very, very impressive. And even if it's not the best story in the world, but it's just a fun experience throughout, right? Like,
yeah. No, I would say though that like a critique that I do actually have is that like Hayden Panettiere does live no matter what. They do that. Like she has to live. I mean, spoilers, but like she's one of the ones. They do have the one character that like always has to make it to the end for it to work. Which is a little my one biggest complaint with Until Dawn is that I played it with a friend. We made it to the final. Everyone was alive. We did a near perfect run. The very last button prompt, my friend pressed square instead of circle. Every character got killed by Hayden Panettiere.
Oh yeah,
with that one button, which is like very cute, very cheeky, but also that sucked. Like I walked out of the game being like, God dang it! Like man,
yeah.
Like it does sink that like 7 hours died to that, you know.
I don't know. I know what you mean.
But I mean, I would put it below Stardew Valley personally. That's just is the thing of like how far do you go up before you would put a game that you would rank higher. No, I mean it's just I think that Stardew Valley, is a game that has more of a. I don't want to say a timelessness to it because I think that Until Dawn will actually probably age pretty well as a game, but I would say that I feel the desire to go back to Stardew Valley. Right, I felt the desire after I played it the first time when I played it on Switch, and I felt the desire just the other day to start up a whole new farm. But with Until Dawn, I'm sort of like I had that experience. Obviously, I had the bad taste at the end, but I enjoyed it. But I don't need to do it again, right? And it's in the same way that like that there's a fun horror movie romp.
Yeah.
You don't want to rewatch it again.
Yeah, no, I get you. Like,
Where would you want to put it, Saf?
You're like it's certainly one of the stronger ones of those style of like adventure storytelling games, for sure. But I feel as though I would agree with Will a lot more about this sort of thing because I have played a bit of Stardew Valley, and granted, and I feel as though like there is a lot to like about this sort of game, and this one. Until Dawn, they do have quite a few bit of flaws in there, and it's definitely not the strongest of that genre can offer. So yeah, I could definitely put it below Stardew Valley, which is a tiebreaker right now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, like I can understand that. I can understand that viewpoint.
Yeah. And like I understand why you put it above is the thing too. I get it. These are two. It's weird because it's like
hard comparing Stardew with fucking.
Yeah, it's a very apples to oranges situation, right? Like even more so than like Left 4 Dead 2 and Donkey Kong Country 2 last week. Like this one is just like, oof. I get that a lot of this is personal preference.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually had a lot of experience with Stardew Valley. I've played bits and pieces of it. So if you want to like throw in like a few flaws of that game, I may be able to change my mind. Maybe.
I mean, I feel like we're kind of settled, right? Unless, I mean, do you feel passionate about being above Stardew, Noah? Or it's on Noah.
Not particularly.
Yeah.
Like, so. I mean, I still think it's a fair spot for it.
Okay.
Like you said, it is a really fun experience. Both games are really fun experiences, but I feel like in terms of flaws, I guess Until Dawn would have more like even if it's like the tiniest things. Stardew Valley, it's still in the same range, I would say. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So
we feel good.
Then it comes in at number 12, I guess that would be, for the list. So surrounding it, we have number 10, Mario 3D Land, number 11, Stardew Valley, number 12, Now Until Dawn, number 13, Alundra, number 14, Crash Bandicoot, number 15, The Simpsons Arcade Game. I mean, that's like our 10 through 15, but those were all still really good games, so that's good.
Feels good.
There really is such a huge drop off between Simpsons and Metro and Sticker Star. But that is the podcast for the week. I want to thank you all for listening. Before we leave, quick plugs. I want to plug Twitch one more time. I do it every week, but I want to keep doing it. Monday through Thursdays, check us out. Different shows every week or every day. Different people on camera or on microphone, I guess is the thing, not camera. And in addition, we have Facebooks, we have Twitters, we have Instagrams. Twitter is the main one that we use. It's Jump Up Supercast on all those platforms, though. We want to thank you all for listening. And I want to do a thing. Saf, since you won the game this week,
okay,
I want you to get the final message out to our viewership on this podcast. So, Saf, final message. Take it away.
Like, I'm so unprepared for this.
There we go. That was it. End of the podcast right there.
There we go. Done. Lock it in.
There we go. I'm so unprepared for this.
Disgusting.
Honestly, that's the tagline for this podcast. Jump Up Supercast. I'm so unprepared for this.
All right. Well, goodbye, everyone.
Right. We'll see you all next week.
We're on iTunes.
Oh God, iTunes!
Yeah, we're not going to say where we are, like any of the social media
That's
stuff.
my message. We're on iTunes. We're on Twitch.
Jesus.
Okay, I'll run it through real quick. Sorry. We're on YouTube. We're on SoundCloud. We're on all podcast services, wherever you can look up a podcast, especially iTunes. Rate us on iTunes. And we are on all social media, so you can find out when the podcasts go up, when we're streaming, blah, 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 on our Twitter, on our Facebook. And then Brandon likes to put some weird stuff on our Instagram, so check that out too. @ Jump Up Supercast.
We don't have to answer for the Instagram post. That's all Brandon.
Yeah, the Jump Up Supercast Instagram is all Brandon.
So don't ask us. Don't ask us. So Saf, you've now had about 30 seconds.
Okay, so
try again.
Right.
Final word.
Mother 3's getting announced at E3. Let's all buy Mother 3. Let's do it.